Welcome, everyone. Today's webinar is an introduction to project outcome for both public and academic libraries. Before we get started, again, just a few housekeeping details. The webinar will be recorded, and you'll be able to find a link to the recording in the project outcome resources after this event. And again, please use the chat to share your questions and ideas. We will pause throughout the presentation for questions, and there will be time at the end. And with that, I'd like to introduce today's presenters. Sarah Gook, Project Manager for Data and Research for PLA, is unable to join us today. My name is Gina Parsons Diamond. I am the Program Manager for Data and Research at ACRL, and I'm the main staff liaison for the Project Outcome for Academic Libraries Toolkit. I'm joined by Katina Jones, who is the Program Manager for Evaluation and Assessment at the Public Libraries Association. And our colleagues Mahogany Meeks and Brian Lim are also joining us today from PLA and ACRL. They will be monitoring the chat and sharing links for us. So today's webinar focuses on Project Outcome, a free toolkit designed to help libraries understand and share the impact of essential library services and programs. It provides simple surveys and an easy-to-use process for measuring and analyzing outcomes. Project Outcome also provides libraries with resources and training support to help you apply your results and advocate for your library's future. If you haven't signed up yet, you can do that now. It's quick and easy and free. And again, the toolkits are available for all public and academic libraries worldwide. So today's webinar focuses primarily on outcome measurement and why it matters for your library. We'll walk you through using the Project Outcome Toolkit, and we'll share a couple case studies as examples of how other libraries are using the toolkit to advocate for improvements at their institutions. Before we get into that, we're just going to start with a couple of quick definitions. So capturing the impact and value of your library's work is important to be able to tell stakeholders why it matters. For that story to be powerful, it's helpful for libraries to have strong data and evidence. However, assessment or evaluation can be easier said than done. It presents a number of challenges, particularly because each library and community has its own needs, and usually there's limited time and resources to devote to data collection and analysis. Project Outcome is designed to lower the barriers to this work, and we will be sharing a few tips for strategic measurement later in the presentation. There are many ways you can capture impact, and you may already be doing some of these. Outcomes are just one piece of the puzzle. Different types of impact measurement can help you answer different questions you may be asking. So needs assessment helps answer the question, what does our community need? Patron satisfaction can help answer the question, what should we do better? Outputs can help answer the question, how much did we do? And then outcomes can help answer the question, what good did we do? And adding outcome data to your impact story can help drive decision-making and strategic planning. And this is where Project Outcome comes in. So the definition of outcomes we use for the purposes of Project Outcome is that outcomes are a specific benefit from a library program or service that can be quantitative or qualitative and are expressed as changes individuals perceive in themselves. Outcomes help answer the question, what good did we do? Or to put it another way, outcomes describe how learners are changed as a result of our efforts. Outcomes are not focused on recording library offerings or library usage, like collection counts, gate counts, resource counts, number of instruction sessions offered, etc., but rather on documenting how the library impacts the learning and work of its users. They should be meaningful, achievable, observable, and actionable. With any data you collect, it's important to think about why you're collecting it and what it can help you achieve. Evidence from libraries show that project outcome helps them make programming decisions, engage in advocacy, secure funding, report on the use of grant funds and apply for additional grants, do strategic planning, and build meaningful community partnerships. So project outcome is designed for you to help overcome common assessment barriers and engage more effectively in outcome measurement. It gives you a consistent and convenient way to measure outcomes and data that you can use to advocate for your library. So the project outcome model offers several distinct advantages. The toolkits are built around a set of simple and quick surveys. You can use them straight out of the box or choose to add custom questions. An easy-to-use survey management portal is included in the toolkit to help you collect and enter survey data. And then once you've collected some responses, you can access ready-made reports that the system generates for you, as well as customizable data reports that you can create yourself. You can additionally explore your results in a suite of interactive data dashboards with benchmarks, which allows you to see how you're doing compared to your peers. And all the resources and training materials we've created are to help libraries engage in the outcome measurement process, and we continue to add more resources to the toolkit. So if you feel like we're missing something, just let us know and we'll get it added. And finally, we offer a peer discussion board. This is where you can ask questions and share examples of what works or doesn't work for you. This combination of the ready-to-go surveys and easy-to-use tools can really help library staff save time and energy in planning their data collection, which leaves more time for decision-making and advocacy once the results are in. Today's session will provide a brief overview of these features, and there are many resources and tutorials available in the toolkit where you can learn more. And I just want to take a moment to reiterate that all the surveys, tools, and resources available on Project Outcome are free for academic and public librarians, as well as LIS students everywhere. Project Outcome's simple standard surveys were developed by and for the library field. Since public and academic libraries offer different types of programs and services, the survey topics available to you differ based on your library type. Of course, how individual libraries use them will differ as well. Public libraries have 8 survey topics available to them: digital learning, early childhood literacy, health, summer reading, economic development, job skills, civic community engagement, and education and lifelong learning. Academic libraries have 7 survey topics available to them: instruction, research, events programs, teaching support, library technology, digital and special collections, and space. Each survey comes in 2 types, immediate and follow-up. Before you decide which survey you'll use, make sure to look at the actual survey questions and see which ones will get you the type of data you need. All the surveys can be previewed in the resources. Project outcome surveys are designed to capture 4 key outcomes: knowledge, confidence, application or behavior change, and awareness. I apologize, the Likert scale questions are not showing up on my slide right now. But then each survey also contains 2 open-ended questions that will help you get the most out of your patrons' feedback. What did they like most about the program? And what can the library do to improve? These open-ended questions are invaluable to libraries. This is where you can gain the most insight into how to help your patrons and gather qualitative evidence to demonstrate value in your community. One thing we see repeatedly is library patrons asking for more hotspots for checkout, more study spaces, more puppets during story time, more everything. Getting repeating comments like that can help you make the case for additional time or resources that you need. And the quantitative results can help support your case by showing that what your library is already doing is making a difference. Oh, here's all my slides. So in practice, this is what a project outcomes survey looks like. This is the Education and Lifelong Learning Immediate Survey for public libraries. It's the most generic of the surveys and can be used for a broad range of programs. Text in bold indicates how the questions align with the outcome measures. The first 4 quantitative questions use a Likert scale for responses from strongly disagree to strongly agree. This is the standard survey as available in the toolkit. You also have the option to add up to 3 custom questions to a survey. It's important to remember that you also set the context for the survey when you administer it, so your patrons know what they're being asked about. All surveys in both toolkits are available in English, Spanish, and French. The academic library surveys are also available in Arabic. To choose the right survey, be sure to keep your library's needs and goals in mind. Look at the library programs and services that relate to these goals and consider which you should survey. Maybe it's a program you've been running for a while that you've never gotten feedback on, or maybe you're trying something new and you want to get a sense of how well it's working. Review the survey questions to see which survey topic and type will get you the most useful data. And if there's additional information you need, consider adding those custom questions. You'll also need to think about how you survey. If you're running virtual programs, you'll want to use the online survey link. For in-person programs, you can share the survey directly by giving it only to program participants, either with a paper survey or with a link at the end of the program. You can also share surveys indirectly, for example, by posting it on your library's social media page or LibGuide and asking anyone who may have participated in the program to complete it. It's also important to consider how you frame the survey request in order to encourage participation. It can be helpful to emphasize the importance of feedback and emphasize that the survey is short. It's only 6 questions. As you make changes based on the feedback your survey receives, you can also emphasize that those changes are the result of patron feedback, which can encourage future feedback. Before we move on to showing you how the toolkit works, I want to pause for a moment to see if anybody has any questions. And while we're waiting to see if the questions to come in, we'd also like to know what programs or services might you evaluate at your library using the toolkit, and has anything you've heard sparked ideas about how you might measure outcomes at your library? You can go ahead and share those in the chat. I see a couple questions. I'll go ahead. Katina can help me answer them. We have one from Amy, a public librarian. What would cultural topics like book discussions or speaker performances fall under the education survey?
Amy, thanks for your question. I was over here frantically trying to copy down questions, and I'm glad you didn't miss that one, Gina. I think my first thought, and we'll talk about this a little bit later, but you'll be able to preview the questions. But the most generic of the surveys is am I correct? And is the Education and Lifelong Learning Survey. And so yes, that would probably be the one that you would choose, Amy, but I will say that I would encourage you to review all of the survey questions, which you can do right on the toolkit, and then decide from there.
Okay, and then I see one about the availability of the slide deck. Yes, the slides will be available in the project outcome resources along with the recording. Doug has a question. Does the program survey tool use program logic? Doug, are you asking about like if the questions appear in a different order? Could you elaborate a little bit in the chat and we'll get back to you? Ilana asks, what do you define as immediate versus follow-up? For the purposes of the project outcome toolkit, immediate is right after the program. So if you do a one-shot instruction course at a university, you could hand out the paper survey, you know, the last 5 minutes of your class, or send the link immediately to the students. Follow-up surveys are designed to be administered 6 to 8 weeks after the initial program. It looks like I'm just scrolling through the chat to see any questions. Lots of good ideas and examples of how people are using the toolkit. One that jumps out to me, two that jump out to me in particular are Christine says they have a casual language learning program once a month. And it is grant funded, so they want to get some feedback on that. This is the perfect use case for project outcome. And again, writing outcomes for conference proposals from Rashida, another great use. One for you, Katina. Ravathi asks, can we have events and programs survey for public libraries?
And so I'm assuming that you're at an academic library asking if you can work with the public libraries in your area. And yes, we probably should have an aside conversation about that. But yes, if nothing else, the questions that are available, within the public library surveys are accessible to you so that you could see them and use them outside the platform if you find that's how you want to proceed working with your local public libraries if you're at an academic library, and vice versa on those. Hopefully that answers the question.
Okay, and then Lori asks about evaluating instruction at academic libraries. Is there a way to benchmark our results against other similar institutions? Yes, the project outcome system will benchmark your results for academic libraries at the national level and also by Carnegie class. All right. All right, so Doug, we did speak a little bit about program logic. Because the surveys are so short, there are only 6 questions, 4 Likert scale and 2 open-ended. We don't put, there's no option to put any survey logic in. All the questions will appear on all the surveys.
And Gina, I see a question from Margaret. If you're ready if I can answer this last one.
Hello.
Mark, okay. That ideally with project outcome, you don't want to over survey your participants. And so maybe for a recurring story time, maybe you check in once a month, once a quarter, or if you made any significant changes to how you deliver your story time or that sort of thing, maybe you check in after you've made those changes. So ideally you don't want to over survey, right? And deal with survey fatigue, even though it is only 6 questions. But I think for a recurring program, periodic check-ins, or if you make any significant changes would be a good time to survey.
Great. Thanks so much, Katina. I'm going to move on to talk about using the toolkit. If you have more questions, please just keep popping them in the chat. So this is the account homepage that you'll see when you log in. Once you create an account, you will have access to all of the tools and resources via the user homepage. Any or all staff at your library can create their own accounts. During the registration process, you will have a chance, you must select your library or institution, and this will link all of the individual accounts from that institution together. You'll be able to see all the survey activity associated with your library and the surveys that are tied to the library, so you won't lose data if staff leave. Here's the account management page. Here's where you can see all the users affiliated with your library or institution. You can also see and edit locations, for example, branch libraries or specific libraries on your campus. This matters for the mapping functionality in the dashboard. And also if you want to set a program or service location when you create a survey. For example, if you have a couple branches, or if you're at an academic library and you have multiple libraries on your campus, the location feature can be really handy. And now we're looking at the survey management tool. This is where you can go to create and access all of your library surveys. You can also customize the survey's program information, including program name and date. You'll also be able to track program attendance and survey response rates. Additionally, this is where you can enter survey responses, review auto-generated quick reports, and download the raw data from your survey responses. So to get started creating a new survey, just click on that orange button in the top left. So it just takes 5 simple steps to create a survey. You must first create a survey to access the paper survey and online survey links and be able to enter the results back into the system. Each new survey you create will be based on a project outcome topic template with those 6 standardized questions. You aren't really creating the survey from scratch, but you will have the option for customization, including any additional questions. The survey management tool will walk you through this process with a simple online form. Step 1 is choosing the survey topic and type. Step 2 is where you will want to enter your program name, date, and location. The program name is important because you can use this as a data filter later on. For example, on the academic side, if you are running a lot of English 101 one-shots and you want to be able to roll up all that data into a single report, you'll want to put English 101 as the program name. Step 2 is where you'll enter the survey name. Here's where you will also have the option of adding a custom intro and footer message or a custom redirect link for when the survey is completed. Step 4 is where you can add those additional custom questions we've been talking about. Project Outcome does come with a pre-populated list of additional survey questions. Some are open-ended and some are multiple choice, or you can choose to write your own. The downside of adding custom questions is that they make the survey longer, which can decrease response rates. And then step 5 is administering your survey. You can administer your survey by printing the PDF or using the online survey link. The online surveys are mobile friendly. And then once a survey is created, you can make changes via the survey detail page. The changes that you can make will be limited if you have already begun to collect responses. This page is also where you can find the link to the PDF or online versions of the survey. For the online versions, we offer the link, a QR code, or an embed button that will get you the code that will allow you to embed the survey in another web page, for example, your library's event page or LibCal. You can also use this page to enter program attendance, top right, and this will calculate your survey's response rate. There are several ways of collecting and entering those survey responses. Again, you can send patrons the URL where they can fill out the survey online. This is nice because the data is automatically entered back into the system. If you offer the survey on paper, which can dramatically increase response rates, we offer several ways to get that data back into the system. The first is entering responses one at a time yourself. There's an orange Enter Responses Online button in the bottom right here that you can use. We also provide a bulk entry link to a page that looks like a spreadsheet where you can enter multiple rows of data or multiple rows of responses. This URL is nice because it can be shared with people who do not have Project Outcome accounts, such as student workers, interns, or volunteers, and they will be able to enter that data into the system without having access to the full Project Outcome toolkit. Finally, we offer a bulk upload Excel option. You just download the Excel template, enter your data, and re-upload it. This template is unique to each survey you create. So I totally get that administering surveys and entering data can be a pain, but what makes it worth it is what you can do with the results. The results are available in a variety of formats, making it easy to review, interpret, analyze, and share your results. The first format we're going to talk about is the data dashboards, which show graphic visualizations of your aggregate survey data. All the dashboards can be saved as screenshot images, printed as PDFs, or saved to the infographics library within Project Outcome, which will allow you to add them to your custom reports. So the first dashboard we're going to talk about is the overview dashboard seen on the top left here. This shows an aggregate average score across all survey types and across all outcomes. Each survey topic and outcome show comparisons of your library's average score in that category versus state and national average scores for academic or public libraries, and Carnegie class and national average score for academic libraries. The detailed dashboard, which is on the bottom left here, allows you to view data for each individual survey question organized by survey. These results can be filtered and the benchmarks are also displayed. The matrix dashboard is what you see on the right here. This allows you to explore the data, looking for relationships and correlations, and can also be used to drive decision-making and identify gaps in service or impact. The matrix diagram makes it possible to view aggregate average scores for each survey topic in connection with each outcome. The chord diagram that appears below the matrix table allows you to see your score relationships in a different way. The thicker the chord, the stronger the relationship between that particular survey topic and outcome. And then this is the map dashboard. This allows you to filter by outcome or survey topic, as well as select a custom demographic area. On the left side of the screen are panels with data related to the population, economics, education, and health for that selected area. You can hover over any of these charts for more detail, or you can save these charts to add to your custom reports. And finally, we're going to look at the last dashboard, the qualitative dashboard. This is where you can visualize the most commonly used words from your open-ended responses. You will see one word cloud per survey topic, and you can select a program name to narrow down those results. Click on a word to see its frequency and the other words that commonly appear nearby. The word cloud can give you a sense of overall trends in the open-ended comments, but it's not really a substitute for actually reading the comments or doing further analysis. Export the open-ended responses in a CSV to explore them further. You can save this visualization to your saved infographics library, or and then you'll be able to download them and add them to a report. So the second way you can visualize and share your response data in Project Outcome is through the reports. So the dashboards, which we just discussed, are designed for exploration, really for you to get a deep dive into that data and see what's going on. The reports are designed to easily share your survey results with library staff, management, or other stakeholders. We offer two kinds of reports. The first is the summary report. A summary report captures results from a single survey and is designed for quick sharing, again, with staff, managers, boards, and other stakeholders. The easiest way to get this report is through the Get Report link on the survey management page. It's literally one click and this beautiful PDF report is automatically generated for you. We also offer the option to create custom reports. This is what you'll do if you want to create a report with multiple surveys in it. You can also select it by topic, program, date. The custom survey report builder really lets you kind of get into the weeds. So this is what the reports look like when they first are generated. By default, each report will show a quantitative summary of the data you selected. And if you selected multiple surveys, it'll list the names of all of the surveys you selected. You'll also have the option to choose to add all or some open-ended question responses. And you can customize your reports by adding additional pages with visualizations captured from the data dashboards and custom texts. This is a relatively new feature and we're very excited about it. As well as adding these custom contents to your report, you can click on the saved infographics link in the data dashboards menu to access a library of your saved content. You can export any of these saved visualizations as an image or get HTML code that you can embed in another website or get a link to the visualization that you can share. So if you'd like a stakeholder to really be able to interact with the visualizations, you can send them the link. And again, if you want to access your raw data, we're going to go back to the survey management tool. You're just going to locate the survey you wish to run a report for in the detail page and click the download button next to the number of responses. You can also export your raw data from the survey response viewer. All the raw data comes out as a CSV file. The spreadsheet includes the following fields: library name, location, program name, program date, survey topic, survey type, survey name, response date, response type, and all the quantitative and qualitative responses. Raw data is available as soon as the data has been entered into the system, so you'll just want to be cautious about downloading it while a survey is open and collecting responses. Before we move on to implementation, I just want to take a quick pause again for some questions. And I see a lot have come in.
Do you want to work backwards or you want to go back to the oldest one that I didn't answer?
Let's work backwards. So
Okay.
asks, if my assumption is correct, as different organizations use project outcome, the benchmarks would change over time. That is correct. The benchmarks are updated on a live basis. So the more institutions and libraries that are using the toolkit, the better the benchmarking becomes. Suzanne asks, how labor intensive is the process of data entry for the creation of the reports? If you just run, as I said, we have a variety of ways to enter the survey data back into the system. The most labor efficient way would be to just give the link to the survey to your participants. That way the data is just automatically funneled back into project outcome and you don't have to do any data entry. For the manual data entry, it really depends on how many people you are surveying. If it's a few dozen, it shouldn't take that long. But if you're surveying, 100 or more, I might recommend using the Excel bulk upload template. You just fill out the Excel spreadsheet and re-upload it into the system. And then Doug asks, any open coding tool other than a word cloud or a verbatim dump? We don't provide any additional way to analyze your open-ended responses besides the word cloud, Doug, but you are able to export that data and then run it through any sort of engine you may wish. Anne, again.
So Anne, you answered part of Anne's question. I will say that to say your local survey responses are being harvested, if you're putting them in the toolkit, then they become part of the benchmarks that are used. And the benchmarks are not identifiable about which libraries they come from. You did ask if we could see which organizations are participating. That's something we're sort of thinking about and working about and looking at in future iterations, whether or not it's just a list of which libraries are in your peer group or something like that, is something that we're considering.
Definitely, I agree. And that is a question that Katina and I will be raising with the volunteer boards, both on the public and academic library side, that oversee the tool. So that's definitely kind of a volunteer board kind of question.
I think there were questions. Sorry, I was going to say there's a question from, scroll up a little bit further, from Amy, James, and or Star Todd. And I think we might address those a little bit later, but if you wanted to address them now.
Oh, sure. Let me see. It looks like you've already, could you just read them out to me?
Sure. What would you say is the main reason a library should use Project Outcome as opposed to Qualtrics or another survey software? And then the other question was, can we reduce the number of questions on the survey to ask 3 instead of 6?
Oh, sure. So I'll start with the reducing number. Currently, the 6 standard survey questions cannot be deleted from the survey. So the minimum survey length is those 6 standard questions for Likert scale and 2 open-ended. Again, this is something that has come up a few times, and Katina and I will be bringing back to our volunteer boards to see, to have a discussion with them about the ability to remove survey questions instead of adding them.
And then if you want, I can answer the other question. Amy, I think probably that Amy James, I think the easiest way to address that is with this tool, you have the option of having that peer comparison data available to you. And again, Project Outcome is really designed to help those folks who don't have a huge data team, right? Whether it's on the public library or a small academic library. And so being able to have these short surveys that you can then, deliver directly to your participants and then have reports that, are 2 clicks away, I think is ultimately the benefit for a tool like Project Outcome compared to other tools that are just collecting the survey results. And yes, you might have data visualizations that are available to you, but you don't have the peer comparison on these questions that have been, tested and proven to show the impact in your programs and services. So.
Great, and I just see one more kind of process question, or 2, sorry. Donna asks if public libraries can use the academic surveys or vice versa. There is the short answer. Currently, all the public libraries topics have been developed specifically for public libraries use, and the academic topics have been developed specifically for academic use. And then Elaine asks, are links loaded directly into the LibGuides? Elaine, we do offer a little embed code where the survey questions will actually appear live in your LibGuide with just a little bit of code copying. If you have questions about that, I'll pop the academic email in the chat and you can send us a more detailed question.
And Donna, I will follow up a little bit later in my presentation to sort of address where you're coming from with your questions. So I will turn it back over to Gina.
Well, hilariously, Katina, I'm just going to turn it right back.
Oh yeah, it is my turn, isn't it?
It is your turn.
It is. Okay, so let me get myself situated over here. So now that you've seen how the tool works, thank you, Gina. I want to share a couple of examples of how you can do, of what you can do with the data that you collect. I'll share 2 examples, one from a public library and one from an academic library, but the takeaways from each can apply to any type of library. Next slide, please. So the first case study we'll cover is from an academic library. The Nevada State College is a 4-year public institution founded in 2002. The campus is located on about 500 acres in Henderson, Nevada. When this case study was created, Nevada State College was the 2nd fastest growing public institution in the US with enrollment approaching about 5,000 students. Their students are from a wide variety of a diverse and underrepresented backgrounds with nearly 50% first-generation college students and about 40% lower income and another 40% over the age of 25. The college library is unique in that it is the first entirely digital collection in the state of Nevada. Use of the library space increased significantly after the move to a digital collection, but until using the Project Outcomes Space Survey, they had no way to measure its impact on the students. So as a side note, and Donna, to your question from earlier, I'll reiterate that the Space Survey is a built-in part of the Academic Library Toolkit because it's designed to measure the outcomes of learning spaces unique to academic libraries and their students. Now, some public libraries may have used a version of the space survey outside of the Project Outcome Toolkit. So the thing to recognize there is if you're doing a survey outside of Project Outcome, you can certainly use the questions that you'd find on an academic survey or, vice versa. But ultimately, within the toolkit and having the reports created in the toolkit and having those benchmark comparisons, the two toolkits are separate. And so the space survey is only on the academic survey. But back to Nevada State College. To measure the outcomes of their physical library space, the staff administered the space survey to students who had booked study rooms via LibCal, which you see there on the slide. Overall results were positive, but the lowest score came in on the awareness outcome. That means students were not making the connection to other library resources and services. One possible reason they decided for this was limited signage. Additionally, from the open-ended comments, the library learned that many students were using the rooms for quiet individual study rather than for the group working space the library had originally designed the intended rooms to be used. So next slide, please. So this is the results summary from page 1 of the library space survey report. You can see that there are very positive results for each of the outcomes measured. The survey did end up with only a 14% response rate. They got 22 responses. Nevertheless, this survey still produced actionable feedback. It's important to note that the Nevada State College had conducted a correlational study prior to their implementation of Project Outcome. Of that study, the library said those data were useful in advocating to college administration about the value of library space, but it was not actionable data for the library beyond we need more space. So the correlational study didn't allow them to discover the ways that they could improve the space and to better meet students' needs. And so step in the Project Outcome Space Survey. So from the combination of the Project Outcome data and the data from the correlational study, which again, like I said, it had positive responses, but didn't deliver results that were actionable like the Project Outcome data, the library was able to incorporate the specific feedback they got from Project Outcome in order to have an ask for the administration that went beyond just more. So what actions did Nevada State College take from their survey responses? Number one, improved signage. They introduced digital signage or a rotating slideshow on screens when they weren't in use to advertise library services. They placed table tents in the study rooms to promote events and to promote resources. Second, they changed their reservation policies. They updated their policy to allow a single student to reserve the smaller study rooms for individual quiet study. Third, they soundproofed their study rooms. So they installed sound absorbing panels that resulted in a 30% reduction in noise based on decibel testing. Next, they explored how they could reduce noise overall in the library. So at the time of the study, they were looking into other solutions such as changing the library entryway from an open space to a glassed off entrance that could reduce noise from other areas in the building. And then finally, they used the results for advocacy. Their results were shared with the Nevada State Student Government Organization and used to advocate with campus administration that more quiet study spaces were needed on campus overall. In the summer of 2019, a library-led renovation project was approved to convert a nearby classroom into a quiet study computer lab. So this is a nice case study because it shows how one survey with a relatively small number of responses led to demonstrated improvements within the library, giving the students exactly what they said they needed to be successful. So the next case study is the newest one within our public libraries. So in the summer of 2020, to adapt to ongoing COVID-19 pandemic restrictions, staff at the Sarasota County Libraries in Florida, like many libraries across the country, sought new ways to safely connect with their community. A new initiative they tried was to supply take-home programming kits. So starting with this new service, they offered a perfect opportunity to implement Project Outcome, new service. Let's make sure that we understand and know if the service is meeting the needs of our users. So the staff chose to print the survey and include them in the kits and ask patrons to return them or to submit the responses online. So return the survey, paper survey, or submit responses online. Staff at the Sarasota County Libraries distributed over 1,000 grab-and-go kits with printed surveys included. Unfortunately, only 10 surveys were returned. So, and I will say that low response rates can be a common challenge with program assessment. It's particularly challenging without a captive audience. Distributing a survey to patrons in the room at the end of a program will probably get you much higher response rates than giving them a survey to take home that they have to return, or once they get home, remember to use the link to participate. So now, however, despite the low response rate to their surveys, the library found the evaluation experience itself was valuable. Specifically, it helped them to clarify the intended outcomes of this service, which can be just as valuable as hearing the feedback. So as I wrap up, here's a bit of advice as I wrap up talking about case studies. I got a few more things to say, but here's just a little bit of advice. Number one, give it time. Don't be discouraged if you have a slow start or don't immediately meet your intended surveying goals. So give it time. As I mentioned earlier, if you've got a recurring program, continue to ask for feedback. And I think the way that your patrons and your students understand that you're taking this feedback to heart is when they see changes based on their feedback. Okay. And so also make sure that as you're making changes, you can say, we've updated this, or we've changed the way we do this because of feedback from patrons like you. And then secondly, remember that even a handful of responses can give you valuable insight into what your community needs, right? So, using the project outcome responses, even if you only have a few, with other data that you've collected about how folks are using your library, can make a big difference and help you understand what your community is seeking from the library. So I'm going to go on to our next steps. And so this is where we're going to actually sort of do this wrap up, and hopefully as I go through these things, if there's any other questions that come up, drop them in the chat, and then after I get through these few slides, we'll come back to them. So why use project outcome? We know that short and simple surveys mean you get a higher response rate. People don't like completing very long surveys. Sometimes long surveys are necessary, but for day-to-day evaluation, having a quick and easy way to gather feedback is helpful. These surveys were created by and for the library field. They've been tested and validated, so you can have confidence in the results that you get from using these surveys. The standardized surveys and outcome measures mean you can track progress at your library, but also have benchmarks to compare how you're doing compared to other libraries. The ready-made reports and visualizations in the data dashboards do a lot of the hard work for you. They give you results that you can easily share with internal and external stakeholders. The reports and dashboards also provide an immediate snapshot of how a program went. This allows you to take that feedback and get started on improvements right away. The open-ended comments are really valuable. They can provide specifics on where patrons would appreciate support and stories of what they value that can support your advocacy and your reporting. Overall, the project outcome tools are designed to be easy to use to reduce the burden of evaluation. You focus more on making an impact at your library and less on agonizing over survey questions and spreadsheets of results. So you can work at your own pace and comfort level. If you are new to outcome measurement, start small. See how it goes and learn from there. So like I said, don't get discouraged, just keep going. As you become more comfortable, there are many ways you can dig deeper and customize your surveys and reports. So on the next slide, we have, this roadmap, right? So if you're new to assessment or to project outcome, one place to start is with this roadmap, which walks you through the steps to take. So now, while this roadmap presents a linear picture of the process, get started, plan, create, administer surveys, enter and review data, and then take action, I'd emphasize that it's actually an iterative process. With regular evaluation over time, you should and will repeat this process. But you might find that adding onboarding staff during the getting started phase or bias reduction during the administering survey phase becomes a part of the process at your library to see the desired improvements in program and service delivery. It's also important to keep the end goal in mind here. The purpose of this work is to take action and make change. These might be actions that you anticipate in advance that you're using the survey to get feedback from folks, or they might be driven by the feedback that you actually receive, as illustrated in the case study shared earlier. So I know this seems like a lot of information. We've talked a lot in the past 50 minutes. However, the toolkit is really designed to be simple to use. I encourage you to get in there and just poke around and see what's in there. Project Outcome has numerous resources available to all users covering all aspects of the outcome measurement process. So since we didn't have time to go through all of the features of the toolkit in detail today, be sure to check out the tutorials as a reference. They're video tutorials. And then there's other PDF and document information in the resources where you can preview all the survey questions to choose the best one for your needs. There's also additional case studies where you can learn how other libraries have used project outcome results to take action, and many other resources, again, that covers all aspects of the outcome measurement process. And then additionally, as you're engaging in the toolkit, remember that you can ask others how it works for their libraries on the peer discussion boards. So these boards are now on ALA Connect, and they're accessible to anyone with an ALA account. You don't have to be an ALA member to create an account on ALA Connect. And we've dropped in the chat, we've dropped links to the two outcome community, the two ALA communities. You get the idea, and you can also access them from the homepage of both Project Outcome and acrl.projectoutcome.org. Okay, so let's first ask a question before we open it up for other questions. What will you do to get started with outcome measurement at your library today? Anybody have any inspiration from what we've shared today to help you? Where are you going next with Project Outcome? Please share it in the chat.
I see Susan says they're going to use it for the summer reading survey. Excellent.
Mm-hmm.
Research appointments, the monthly language program, fall programs, upcoming grants, community engagement. These are all excellent.
Dean and I are getting excited about all this new data that you're going to be able to use.
We're all fired up. Yep, so we have about 6 minutes left. So if anybody has additional questions, please share them in the chat. And Katina and I will be happy to answer them. Additionally, we ask that you take a 2-minute survey as you exit the webinar. It's based on the Project Outcome Survey model, so you'll find it quite familiar.
Any questions that came in while I was talking?
Yes, it looks like Minda has one. Will you be developing a survey for outreach services? I think outreach services is a broad enough category that it could fall under several of the existing topics. Just spitballing from the academic side, you could use the instruction survey or the research survey or even the events programs survey to do any number of outreach. And then Amy asks, can we pool results from multiple surveys that use the same questions? Yes. you definitely can. You can use the custom report builder we discussed earlier to roll up survey responses from multiple surveys. So if you need a semester or season-long report, you can definitely do that in the system.
And Rashida, yes, your question is, can respondents take the same survey more than once? And so, yes, the link is available. It doesn't have any limitations on, or cookies where people wouldn't be able to take the survey again. So if you've got somebody that's coming to several programs and you want to get feedback on how, things have changed for them, or if you can use the same survey link for multiple iterations of the same program, maybe at different branches or, at different times over a period of time.
It looks like, and then Doug asks, for benchmarking, do you have minimum base sizes? No, we do not. I know on the academic side, the benchmarking is quite general. We use the 4 main Carnegie classes and the national average. So we're not really running into a size issue. Have you ever experienced this on the public library side, Katina?
No, I think when it's and I'm trying to sort of think beyond what Doug typed there to see if I can, sort of grasp where he's going with it. As far as the benchmarks go, they are based on, the survey topics or, the peer groups are again similar to yours. The peer groups are large enough that we aren't, you wouldn't be comparing yourself to only one other library as far as the benchmarks go.
Okay. And then Joseph asks, is it better to do surveys for a program on a reoccurring basis, or is it better to date an individual program? So that's really up to the library. Again, speaking from the academic side, we have institutions that will create one, what's the word? One survey for reference desk transactions for a whole semester. And that just kind of rolls them all up. We have other libraries that will disaggregate their reference surveys by librarian if they need that for tenure and promotion. We've really designed the toolkit to be flexible for however you want your library to use it. So I would just maybe take a moment to chat with your peers or other stakeholders at your library and see how you want your institution to move forward.
That's a great response, Gina. Dr. Julia, it says, can Public Library Foundation board directors be given full access to Project Outcome? Yes, anyone, the way that you sign up for an account in Project Outcome just requires that you have an email address to, the word just fell out of my head, that you can confirm that that email address is accurate. And so, yes, if you've got board members that want to be able to, or or people on your foundation that are appropriately connected to the library, that they want to be able to use Project Outcome, yes, that's an option for you.
And then we will be emailing the recording out, and it will be available in the resources section of Project Outcome. Elaine asks, do you have a free trial period? I'm pleased to tell you that the toolkit is free for public and academic librarians and LIS students, and you do not have to be an ALA, ACRL, or PLA member to create your free account. There's no charge at all for a Project Outcome account.
All right, did we miss any other questions?
If we've missed your question, please just pop it back in the chat for us. Y'all have been so great and engaged. I want to make sure that nobody is left hanging. All right, thank you so much for joining us today. You'll see the recording in your inbox in the next couple days. And if you have any questions, please don't hesitate to reach out and get in touch with us. Thank you so much for coming today.